Hi, my name is Bria and I am a former AP World History student. Today I'd like to share some tips for writing the free response questions on the national exam. As you probably know, the writing portion of the exam is timed. You get 40 minutes to write the 3 SAQs, and you get an hour and 40 minutes to do both the LEQ and the DBQ. If you're thinking, how in the world will I finish writing in time? Then this is the perfect video for you. Before I mention anything else, I want to remind you that Mr. Welly prepares you extremely well for this exam, and if you take your studies and practice seriously, you will have the skills necessary to complete this exam accurately and efficiently. So first, you will complete the SAQs. As I mentioned earlier, you will have 40 minutes to write 3 SAQs. I'll be honest, this section was probably the hardest on my exam. The SAQs are specific, and at least in the 2023 exam, they were fairly difficult. They might be harder or easier for you, depending on what the College Board wants to do that year. The first 2 prompts will have a stimulus, and on the third one, you will have an option of 2 prompts to do one and neither have a stimulus. For the stimulus-based SAQs, analyze the sources quickly and carefully. After reading them, answer the questions. I know you're wondering, well, what if I don't know the answer? Remember, you don't have much time to write all 3, despite how long 40 minutes seems at first. Take a minute maximum to think about your answer. Here's a strategy to do that. First, what time period is the question or stimulus referring to, and on a broader level, what was going on there during that time? What events related to the prompt were happening? If a prompt is talking about 1900 to present China, then there is a good chance that communism is something you will write about. If you can't think of anything, you will have to make your best guess. Although it's actually crazy what can get accepted for an answer. If in an SAQ for one of Mr. Welly's exams, it asked me to identify an environmental change from the Green Revolution. I completely forgot that pesticides existed during that exam. So I talked about how some natural habitats were eliminated because of the increase in farms. While I didn't think that would work, Mr. Welly thought it did, and I got a perfect score in that SAQ. Alright, so that's about all the tips I have for the SAQ, so let's move on to the LEQ and DBQ. Okay, for the DBQ and LEQ, I would suggest take an hour and 15 minutes on the DBQ and use around 30 minutes on the LEQ. Now that seems kind of crazy to write a 5-paragraph essay in 30 minutes, but trust me, your nerves will let you write as fast as possible. It's crazy. It's one of those things where you don't do it until you have to, and it's crazy. Trust me, you can do it. But okay, for the DBQ, it's a wild card in terms of how hard it could be. Sometimes the prompt is easy, and sometimes it is very obscure. No matter the prompt, make sure you read the documents carefully. The amount of mistakes and extra time you take when you misread documents is crazy. Trust me, I have had my fair share of reading documents wrong. It's not fun. So take around 15 minutes to read them, otherwise you will end up citing them and sourcing them incorrectly. Another personal tip that I've always used throughout my time in AP World is to use every document even if you're not sure you use them correctly, because then this will help you get the advanced sourcing and advanced evidence points, even if you source something wrong. You have to cite 6 of them to get the point. So if you source 1 wrong and you used all 7, well, then you're still fine. If you can't think of evidence outside of the documents, use the strategy I mentioned earlier. Think of the time period and get more specific. So those are kind of the tips I have for the DBQ. Just make sure you're sourcing them well, and yeah. So for the LEQ, you're going to get 3 options to choose one of them from. Make sure to choose the topic that you know the best. The LEQ is the very last part of the exam, and you have to push through the hand cramps and mental fatigue. Once you choose a prompt, make a quick plan for it. You might want to write it down on the prompt topic packet, although you might have a solid plan in your head. So if you have that solid plan in your head, just don't waste the time writing it down. For me, I had to evaluate the extent to which the Enlightenment caused the French Revolution. While my initial thought was to say that the Enlightenment caused it to a fairly great extent, I actually couldn't think of enough reasons and evidence to support my answer. Therefore, I actually wrote how the Enlightenment caused it to a somewhat medium extent, because I remembered how the French economy and the American Revolution caused it, and there were 2 of my body paragraphs, and the Enlightenment was my third. So I was fine there. In this essay, I ended up arguing something that I didn't necessarily agree with so that I could get the maximum amount of points possible. So you might have to do this too, and don't feel bad about doing it. Keep adding the nuance and complexities, like wherever you can add in how this tied into something greater. College Board loves that. So just write it, and don't worry about like being messy in your writing either. Like, trust me, College Board will try to read everything, and if one grader can't read it, they'll send it to another grader that possibly can. Yeah, and honestly, the LEQ, after you wrote the DBQ, you'll be like, there'll be so much knowledge in your head already just from reviewing because of the exam that you just took. So don't worry, you will think of something. And as you write, you'll also think of random stuff. Like on my LEQ, I was just kind of writing about stuff, and I was like, oh, in the part where I was talking about where Marie Antoinette was like, let them eat cake, and I like quoted that, and I was like, yeah, I didn't think about that at the beginning of my plan. It just kind of happened, and when you're stressed like that, you will write a lot faster than you think. And plus the pen that you have to write in, if you get a nice ballpoint pen, it really helps to just write really, really quickly. It's surprising how slow pencil actually makes you write. So also another extra tip is practice writing in pen for at least a practice LEQ or DBQ. I personally did a practice DBQ in pen, and while I thought it was a horrible piece of writing, Mr. Willie gave me a 7. So yeah, so those are kind of my tips and tricks that I've accumulated throughout my year in AP World History. And remember, you got this. Believe in yourself, and don't doubt the knowledge that you know, because you know so much. I'll be honest, there was so much that I remembered that it covered up for the stuff that I didn't remember. So if you're scared about not remembering things, you'll still remember other things that'll help you get through this exam. So yeah, thanks for watching.